Aliyah and the family in Nechama. And to thank our Talmud Torah sponsor for the month of Elul, Benny Goldberg, for dedicating the shir memory of his parents, Avram ben Asher Pinchas, and Feger Ezel Bas Zelig, and the hope that all of the suburban mishpacha had their tefillos answered over the Yomim Noraim. Shkoyach, and a thank you to Bennett. All right, I will say, let us begin Mesachas Meilah, an incredible, exciting opportunity. I will say, so we're familiar with the concept of Meilah, because the truth is, we spoke about it extensively in Krisos and in Zvachim. The truth is, in all of the Kachim Karbanos, we have somehow referenced Meilah in some way, shape, or form. What I will share with you is it's just a kind of b'derech hashkafa to kind of frame this a little bit in terms of just a fascinating insight regarding Meilah. Remember again, we know Meilah means misappropriation of temple property, right? We'll see there are different forms of Meilah. Meilah often results in different forms of liability. Paradigmatic Meilah results in three things, right? If you go out and you take property from the Beis HaMikdash and use it for your own mundane use, there's Keren, you have to repay the principal, Chomesh, the penalty fifth, and an asham. Again, we'll see not all cases of Meilah bear those liabilities. Actually, today we'll discuss Meilah da'oraisa, Meilah da'oraisa, and Meilah d'Rabbanan. We'll see that distinction. But the Rambam, actually in Hilchos Meilah, says something so beautiful. This is a little bit random. It actually happens to be in the middle of the Rambam, Parak Ches Halacha Ches. So the Rambam writes, I'm going to read to you this. I'll send it out in the WhatsApp afterwards. But it's quite amazing. Listen to what he writes. He says, the Rambam says a person should really contemplate the mitzvahs in the Torah and understand their full profundity. If so the Rambam over here in Hilchos Meilah writes, sometimes there are mitzvahs we don't understand. There are mitzvahs we don't understand. And sometimes when there are things that we don't understand, human nature is we tend to be dismissive of that which we do not understand. And even when it comes to Kadosh Baruch Hu's mitzvahs, the things I get and I accept, and the things that I don't get, sometimes I'm a bit dismissive and disparaging of. So listen to what the Rambam writes. He says, but don't do that. Don't do that. He says, Bo'u re'eh, this is just in the middle of Hilchos Meilah. Bo'u re'eh, Kama hechmira Torah b'Meilah. He says, for example, look how machmir the Torah is with the concept of Meilah. Uma'im eitzim va'avanim va'afar va'efer kevan shenikra shema adon olam aleihem bidavar bidvarim bilvad niskachu v'chala noeg bahem minag chol ma'al ba'Hashem va'afilu hayashogig tzarich kapara. But we'll say, when it comes to Meilah, a person takes a piece of wood which belonged to the Beis HaMikdash, and what? And then a person goes ahead and uses that in a mundane way. So what happens? A person needs kapara, even if they did it accidentally. Keren, chomesh, asham, kal v'chomer, shechaka klana HaKadosh Baruch Hu shel yivat ha'adna bahen, mipnei shelo yadat haman. But say if a piece of wood which belongs to HaKadosh Baruch Hu could be vested with so much kedusha, that halacha l'maisa, if you misappropriate and misuse it, you have so many penalties. Imagine the power of mitzvos. Imagine the power of the Dvar Hashem. If a piece of wood given over to the Beis HaMikdash is vested with so much holiness that misappropriation and misuse requires kapara, then imagine the kedusha that every single mitzvah possesses. And therefore says the Rambam, never be dismissive of a mitzvah even if you don't understand it. Never be disparaging of a mitzvah, even if for some reason it doesn't appeal to your particular sensitivities or particular outlooks on life. At the end of the day, if the piece of wood has kedusha because it belongs to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then how much more a mitzvah has kedusha, which emanates from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So I thought just the beautiful truth is you could be mosif on this also, which if a piece of wood has so much kedusha, which ultimately again is belongs to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and Kal v'chomer, a mitzvah has so much kedusha because it's from the word of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then imagine how much kedusha we have who are made b'tselem Elokim. That's the Kal v'chomer ben beno shel Kal v'chomer. Imagine the Kedusha that each of us possesses. If a piece of wood, which belongs to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, has Kedusha, then man who has a spark of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in him, imagine the Kedusha we possess. And I will say with that, let us begin. A beautiful psicha, that's Rambam, Hilchos Meilah, Perek Ches, Halacha Ches. I'll send it out a little bit later. Kodshei Kadoshim, I'll say, here we go. Beautiful, beautiful. It's that exciting new Masechta smell, right? It's... or that might be the old building. I don't know. One of the two, right? Good. So let's go. Kodshei Kadoshim. Incredible Mishnah. Kodshei Kadoshim. We'll say, you got to get more excited about this. This is mamish like you're making your journey through Shas. I'm not going to take a show of hands how many people have learned Meilah before. I'm not taking, unless you've done Daf Yomi before. I'm not. But at the end of the day, I will say, what an incredible opportunity. You're seeing parts of Torah that Baruch Hashem, if you brought your Shas from home, come on, the binding cracked a little bit when you got to Meilah this morning, right? And Baruch Hashem, incredible. We're seeing Masechtas that generation ago, a Stam guy would have never even thought he would have ever seen. Incredible. Thank you. Kodshei Kadoshim Sheshachtim Mudar. We'll say, let's go. So Kodshei Kadoshim. So remember again, we've also seen many times before that we have different groupings of karbanos. Kodshei Kadoshim, Kodshim Katlim. Our topic over here revolves around Kodshei Kadoshim. Chatos, Shlomim, Ola, Sheshachtim B'darim. You shechted it in the south of the Beis HaMikdash. Now, both sides. So understand, normally the halacha is Kodshei Kadoshim are shechted in the north. That's the halacha. So you shechted Kodshei Kadoshim in the wrong place. What's the halacha? Molin bahem. Halacha l'maisa, it is subject to Meilah. So I'll say, even though you shechted the carbon in the wrong place, again, we're going to define the parameters of these halachos, but even though you shechted it in the wrong place, halacha l'maisa, it is still subject to Meilah. Shachtan b'daran v'kibel dan b'tzafon. What happens if you shechted it in the south? So remember again, wrong. We're supposed to shecht. If you look at the first Rashi says, Kachet shachtan b'daran v'afagav the dinan lishchat b'tzafon lo yatsu mikidushas l'gabe Meilah shanena mehen shave pruta mal. So we'll say, so again, even though you shechted it in the wrong place, the carbon itself is still subject to Meilah. Case number 2. Shachtan b'daran v'kibel dan b'tzafon. If you went ahead and you shechted the carbon in the south, not good, but you did Kabbalah in the north, which is good. So we'll say, so here Shechita was done in the wrong place, Kabbalah done in the right place, or b'tzafon v'kibel daman b'daran, or reverse. I shechted it in the north, which is good, and did Kabbalah in the south, which is not good. Or shachat bayom v'zarak balayla, or I did the Shechita by day, but the zrika, the sprinkling of the blood by night, or balayla v'zarak bayom, I shechted it at night and sprinkled the blood by day. Oh, sheshachtan chutz lizmanon v'chutz limkoman, or I shechted the carbon outside of its prescribed time or outside of its prescribed place. In all of these cases, the Mishnah says ma'alin bahen. The carbon is subject to Meilah, which Rabbi say, what the Mishnah effectively is teaching me that what? Even if I did something, quote unquote, illegal in the carbonic process, the carbon itself, although it may not be valid as a carbon anymore, halacha l'maisa will still be subject to Meilah. Again, we obviously have to discuss the parameters of this. So the Gemara says, Klal, Am Rabbi Yeshua. So Rabbi Yeshua says as follows. Kol shahayala shas heter lekohanim a molin bahan. So Rabbi Yeshua adds in a klal. Now again, this klal is interesting because we'll see whether or not how the klal fits to the previous cases. But Rabbi Yeshua says as follows: any carbon that had a shas heter lekohanim, which Rabbi say means, if the carbon reached a state where it is permitted for consumption by the kohanim, even if something subsequently occurred which disqualified it, it is no longer subject to Meilah. Let me actually strike that last line. Once the carbon becomes permitted for consumption for Kohanim, it is no longer subject to Meilah. That's what Yeshua is saying. So again, once it's permitted for consumption for Kohanim, even the Gabos Amenep becomes permitted for consumption of anyone else, it is not subject to Meilah. But any time the carbon did not reach or will not have a point in time in which it is permitted for consumption by Kohanim, mo'alin ba. At that point, in halacha l'maisa, it is subject to Meilah. Ezohi shahayala shas heter lekohanim. So we'll say, what's an example? So give me an example of this. I'll give you an example. Shalana vishenitma'a vishayatza. So we'll say an example An example would be, let's say, no sar. So Rabbi say, what's the halacha with no sar? So you sacrifice a carbon, everything's going great. What's no sar? You leave it over past the prescribed time. Now Rabbi say, now in order for something to become no sar, it means that what? It was permitted to the Kohanim, but it wasn't consumed within the sanctioned window. It's left over. So we'll say, so that would be an example of Rabbi Yeshua's klal, where something that became no sar would what? Would not be subject to Meilah. Why? Because since it was permitted for consumption by the Kohanim, therefore again no longer subject to Meilah. Nitma'a. The carbon becomes permitted for consumption, then becomes Tameh. So remember again, when a carbon becomes Tameh, there are other Isurim of Tumah. But Lamaisa, once it became permitted for consumption, Halacha Lamaisa, it is not subject to Meilah. Or Sheyatza. Or if you have a carbon which was taken out of the proper area for a carbonic consumption, again, once it became permitted for consumption for the Kohen, halacha l'maisa, it is no longer subject to Meilah. So we're going to say in all of these cases that this carbon will be asr, right? It might be asr because of nosar, or it might be asr because of tumah, or it might be asr because of yitzia, right? Of chutz. But at the end of the day, halacha l'maisa, it will not become asr als nosar. Ve'ezi shelo haisel shas heter. And what's an example of something which did not have a shas heter, something which did not have a window of permitted consumption by Kohanim? Shenishchita chutz lizmana. So for example, I'll say a carbon which was shechted outside of its correct time. Again, we'll define all of these cases. Chutz limkoma, or outside of its correct place. Or v'shekiblu psulin v'zarku estama. Or ultimately, again, somebody who is puzzle. Rashi points out there, for example, Bali Mumin. For example, Kohanim were Bali Mumin, and they did Kabbalah and Zrika. So we'll say in all these cases, what happened? The psul in the carbon was already from when? At the Shas Shchita. Once it's at the Shas Shchita, that means there was no time in which the carbon was permitted. If there's no time in which the carbon was permitted, therefore again I should say, no time in which the carbon was permitted in consumption to the Kohanim, and therefore again, halacha l'maisa, subject to Meilah. Beautiful. So both say, let's analyze. Katani, kodshei kadoshim sheshachtam b'daram molin bohem. So we'll say the Mishnah begins with a statement that if you shachted kodshei kadoshim b'daram in the south of the Beis Hamikdash, they are subject to Meilah. To which the Gemara says, Pshita. I mean, why would you think otherwise? In other words, we'll say, just because a carbon ultimately, again, may have elements of it that are sacrificially invalid, why would you assume that it's not subject to Meilah? In other words, we're both saying, what the Gemara is saying is like this: just because a carbon may not be carbonically effective, doesn't change the fact that what? Right? That what? What Meilah is a function of what? Misuse of temple property. So even though halacha l'maisa, again, this carbon may not be sacrificially good, at the end of the day, it is obviously belonging to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, belongs to the Beis HaMikdash. So, of course, it's going to be subject to Meilah, even if you shechted in the wrong place. To which the Gemara says, Mishum de Bidaram afkinun midei Meilah. I don't understand, because you shechted in the wrong place, do you actually think that it's not subject to Meilah? To which the Gemara says, I'll tell you why we need the case. Sagadait Chamina, both is actually quite interesting. And we're going to spend some time on this. You can see over here quotes from Daf Yud Beis. Hoil va'amar ula amar Rabbi Yochanan kadshim shemesu. But it's an interesting case. If you have a carbon that died, not that was slaughtered, not that was shechted, the carbon just died, what's the halacha? Yatsu midei Meilah dvar Torah. So halacha l'maisa mid'oraisa, if a carbon dies, it is no longer subject to Meilah. But if you look at Rashi, second wide line in Rashi, Kadshim Shemesu Yatzim Midei Meilah Dvar Torah, Ava Midrabanan, Islahu Meilah Kid Isla Kamana. So Rashi kind of gives us coming attractions over here. We're going to see that Midoraisa, if a carbon dies, so ultimately again now subject to Meilah. We'll see the reason for that. Rashi just pointing out, although we're going to develop this later on in the sugya, it's not subject to Meilah Midoraisa, but we're going to see it is subject to Meilah Midrabana. So why is that important for us? So watch this. So says the Gemara, Hachinami, Kadshei Kadoshim Legabe Darum, Kima Dechankinun Dami. So the Gemara says like this. So the Gemara says, I might have thought that when you shecht Kadshei Kadoshim in the south, maybe that's the equivalent of what? Of the animal dying without shchita. Literally, Kima Dechankinun means it's as if you strangled the animal. In other words, I might have thought that halacha l'maisa, an animal shechted in the wrong place, halachically is the equivalent of what? Of what? Of an animal that just died. And what's halach with an animal that just died? What's the halacha? Not subject to Meilah. Therefore, the Havamina is, I would have thought that an animal shechted in the south of the Beis HaMikdash is like an animal that died and not subject to Meilah either. Kamashmala, no. Kamashmala, that's not the case. Kamashmala, that halacha l'maisa. They ultimately, again, are two different cases. Why? Kodshim shemesu lo chazu klal. Because they both say when a sacrificial animal dies, it's not fit for anything. It's unusable for anything. Aval darim nehid de'eno rai l'kadshe kadoshim aval ra'ui hu l'kadshe kalim. So they both say here's the difference. When your sacrificial animal dies, there is no sacrificial animal which dies which is fit for the mizbeach. Right? If it dies, it's done. However, shechting in the south is, in general, both say, is carbonically problematic only for what? Kadshe kadoshim. But Kodshim Kalim are shechted in the south. Which I will say is another way of saying like this. The act of shechting a carbon in the south may not be appropriate for this particular carbon, but you cannot claim that it is totally and wholly carbonically inappropriate. So because of that, the act of shechting even Kadshe Kadashim in the south, although this particular carbon will not be good, still leaves the animal with a vestige of carbonic identity. And because of that, therefore, it is still subject to Meilah. Incredible. So we'll say, so that's point number one. So point number one, the Gemara is telling me, is the opening statement of the Mishnah that if you shecht Kadshe Kadoshim in the south, that they are subject to Meilah. What's the Chiddush? The Chiddush is that shechting a carbon in the wrong place is not the equivalent of the animal dying on its own. If a carbon dies on its own, we'll say now we've established, what's the halacha? Not subject to Meilah, at least Midoraisa. Midrabanan we'll talk about. So I might have thought that again, shechting in the south should be the same thing as the animal dying on its own. Kamashmal not like that. Kamashmalon, when it's shechted in the south, wrong for this carbon, but still again in the parsha of karbanos, and therefore although the animal will be sacrificially unfit for its intended purpose, halacha l'maisa, it will be still subject to Meilah. In other words, we'll say, remember, being subject to Meilah means what? You retain a level of sanctified identity. Remember, if you don't have sanctified identity, you're not subject to Meilah. That's why, again, that's part of the whole thing. That's why once the carbon becomes permitted to the Kohanim, it becomes food. Once it becomes food, therefore what? It's not subject to Meilah. So all of these concepts are tied together. Good. Says the Gemara. So we'll say, here's what's interesting. The Mishnah goes through a whole bunch of cases, and the bottom line of all the cases is the same thing, which is what? Even if you did some part of the carbonic process inappropriately, in which case the carbon is really not fit as a carbon anymore, it is still what? Subject to Meilah. And we had a whole bunch of those cases, right? We started out with shechting in the south, Kabbalah in the north. Shechting in the north, Kabbalah in the south. Shechting at night, sprinkling by days. Shechting by day, sprinkling at night. So all these different cases, and I will say the bottom line is the same, which is what? Even if you did something sacrificially illegal, nevertheless, or I should say carbonically illegal, right? Yeah, sacrificially illegal, nevertheless, the carbon itself is still subject to Meilah. To which the Gemara says, why do you have to, thank you, all the cases are very interesting, but why do you have to give me all the cases? Just illustrate it with one case and I'll understand the concept. To which the Gemara says, I'll tell you. Why do you need all these cases? Here we go, boss. It's actually really great. Tzrichi, I need all of them. Really great. It is. Really great. Tzrichi, itana shachtan bedarum v'kibul daman b'tzafon. So we'll say, listen to this. Because if it would have just said the first case, of where you shechted the animal in the south, and you did Kabbalah in the north, right? I would have said, ultimately, again, the reason why that carbon is subject to Meilah is why? Because Rabbi say in that case, so remember again, Rabbi say, what's the ikr ultimately again of karbanos? The ikr? Zrika, right? So Zrika Kabbalah are often like looked at as one, even though they're two avodas. But so I would have thought like this: when an animal is shechted in the south, which is wrong, but you did Kabbalah in the north. So Kabbalah, which is the precursor to the most important avodah of Zrika, so if you did that appropriately, okay, I understand why the animal. Essentially, what you're telling me is the animal is still a carbon and is subject to Meilah. I understand that case. Aval shachtan b'tzafon v'kibul daman b'darim. But if the Mishnah would not have taught me the case of where you shechted in the north and did Kabbalah in the south, so I will say now I'm doing Kabbalah in the wrong place. Shechita happened in the right place, but Kabbalah is happening in the wrong place. I would have said, Hoil v'kibel b'darimhu nafik midei me'ilah. I would have said, since Kabbalah was done in the wrong place, therefore what? The animal is not subject to me'ilah. And therefore I will say what? If you look at Rashi, Rashi says, the ha-Kabbalah b'darimhu, dehi ikar avoda. Kabbalah is the ikar avoda. And I will say, the truth is, really what they're saying, it's really zrika, which is the ikar, but you can't do zrika without what? Kabbalah. So therefore Kabbalah becomes the ikar avoda. So again, had the Mishnah just taught me a case of where I shechted in the south and did Kabbalah in the north, I would have said, okay, that's where the animal is still subject to me'ilah. Why? Because at least you did Kabbalah, i.e. sash zrika, in the right place. But in a case where you did shechita b'tzafan, where you did shechita in the right place, but Kabbalah b'dram, Kabbalah in the wrong place, I would have said that animal is not subject to me'ilah. Therefore, the Mishnah has to include that second case as well, of where you do shechita b'tzafan and Kabbalah b'daram. Next, v'itana hai. And if it would have just said this case, or if it really the Hagos and changed to honey, v'itana honey, and if it would have just said the first two cases, then havamina, Yemama Zman Hakravahu. So I will say, I would say like this. In general, karbanos, not in general, karbanos are only shechted at night. Right? Only shechted and offered at night. So I would have said like this. Daytime, thank you. So karbanos are shechted by day. So I would have said, Yemama Zman Hakravahu. Daytime is the time when you offer up a karban. Aval shachta balayla. But if you shechted a karban at night, vizarak bayom, and you did zvika by day, Laila loves man akrava, v'hai shachad balayla. So I would have said like this. So in a case where you shechted at night and did zvika by day, so shechting at nighttime is not the time for karbanos. Not the time for karbanos. So Laila loves man akrava, v'hai shachad balayla, ema dinafik midei me'ilah. I would have said that what? I would have said that halacha l'maisa, in the case where you shech the animal at night and did zrika by day, once you shech the night, Rabbi was saying, this isn't even a karban. This isn't even a karban. And therefore, if it's not a karban, it's not subject to me'ilah. So therefore again, I have to include that case. The Mishnah has to include the case of shachta balayla, v'zarka bayom. I did shechita at night, zrika by day, and the Mishnah teaches me even that animal is still subject to me'ilah. V'tana shachta balayla. And if it would have just told me the case of where I shechted the animal at night, hava mina hoil v'kibel dama. Bayom is me'ilah. So I was saying, if we would have just said that case of shachta balayla, v'zarka bayom, I would have said, okay, you know why that animal is subject to me'ilah? Because at least what? You did zrika by day. Zrika, which is the ikra avoda, you did it by day. Aval, shachton bayom v'zarak daman balayla. But we'll say a case where you shechted the karban by day, but did zrika by night. Hawil v'lav zman akravahu, kiman dechan kinun dami, v'lo ispu me'ilah. We'll say in a case where you shechted by day and did zrika at night, I will say mamish zrika is the ikar, and you did it by night. I might have thought that is the equivalent of what? That's the equivalent of just an animal that died on its own, or an animal that was strangled, i.e. it's not carbonic in nature, and therefore not subject to me'ilah. Kamashralan, that is not the case. Therefore, I will say, halacha l'maisa, the Gemara successfully demonstrates why each of the stated cases is absolutely necessary, because you could not have learned out one from the other. Each case has its own unique aspect, which could not have been derived from the one before it. But bottom line, the common theme which runs through all of the cases is, even if you did something sacrificially inappropriate, which may technically render the animal carbonically unfit. In other words, I can't do the rest of the avoda with this animal, as we're going to see in a little bit. Nevertheless, halacha l'maisa, the animal will still be subject to me'ilah. That's the bottom line take-home message over here. So we'll say, again, we before we opened up Maseches Meilah, if I were to ask you, when is a karban subject to me'ilah, you of course would have said when? Exactly, when it's kosher. Very good, right? Thank you for coming, right? When it's kosher, right? So I will say, so therefore again, the Mishnah kind of blows the lid off that, and the Mishnah says that no, in fact, even when a karban is actually not totally fit for use, it still retains carbonic identity, and as long as it maintains carbonic identity, halacha l'maaseh it is subject to Meilah. That's the major novelty so far. Good. Chutz lizmano v'chutz limkomo l'may chazu. So we'll say, here's what's interesting. So remember again, the Mishnah also gave the case of where a person shechted a carbon outside of its appropriate time. So if you have a time-bound carbon, and halacha l'maaseh you go ahead and you shecht it outside of its appropriate time, or chutz limkomo, or you go ahead, or you consume it for that matter. So the Gemara says, "L'may chazu." What is this? What is this fit for? Look at Rashi for just a moment. Rashi will give us a good background on this. It's the second to last Rashi on the daf, about 5 lines up from the bottom. Chutz lizmano v'chutz limkomo l'may chazu. Kilomar kol hani detani b'masnisin. I will say all the cases that are listed in the Mishnah, bedinhu demolin b'hem. So I'll say I understand why they are subject to Meilah. Tahai deshachtan b'daram roi lekachim kalim. Because we'll say, interestingly enough, as we're going to see in all the different cases in the Mishnah, although you did something carbonically inappropriate for Kodshei Kadoshim, there are aspects over here that apply to other Karbanos. So for example, even though I shechted Kodshei Kadoshim in the south, which is wrong for Kodshei Kadoshim, but at the end of the day, what? It's fine for Kodshim Kalim. So therefore I understand that although I did something wrong for Kodshei Kadoshim, it won't take away the Meilah status from the Kodshei Kadoshim. The Gemara says, V'shachat balayla nami, o zarak balayla dinhu demolin bohen, delayla lab mechosr zman. And I will say, even shchita at night, zrika at night, which is normally carbonically inappropriate, the Gemara says over here, it'll still work because they're not mechosr zman. We're going to explain what that means later on. Ella, shachat amanas lahaktir chutz lizmano, o chutz limkomo. So we'll say, so the common denominator, this is very important, and this is kind of what the Gemara was trying to articulate before. The common denominator amongst all the cases in the Mishnah is like this. I did something carbonically inappropriate by Kodshei Kadoshim, but my act is not totally outside of the realm of sacrificial law. In other words, there are things that I did something inappropriate for this particular carbon, but halacha l'maaseh, the things that I did are not totally foreign to carbonos. They apply in different ways to different carbonos, whether it's shechting in the south, or shechting in the south, or even doing things at night. Again, we'll get into all of this. But ask the Gemara, I don't understand this last case. El shachat amanas lahaktir chutz lizmano. I'm reading Rashi first of the bottom wide lines. But if you shechted on the condition to go ahead and offer up the carbon outside of the appropriate time, o chutz limkomo, or outside of the appropriate place, l'may chazya. So my chazya hashchita demolin ba hapigol havi v'lo chazu imurin lo gavoa v'lo basar lo kohanim v'lo havu kadshim reuyim klal va'amay molim. So we'll say, listen to this. This is an incredible kasha. So we'll say, in all the other cases, again, just so we're holding in this. And we'll say, the exciting part about this Gemara is you'll see as much as it's kachim, you could hold cup in these Gemaras because the progression is very clear, hopefully. So we'll say, so you understand, the Gemara's point over here is, in the cases in the Mishnah, I did something inappropriate vis-a-vis this particular carbon, but I didn't do something that is totally outside of the pale of sacrificial law. In a case, however, where you shecht the carbon, and your intention is to what? Your intention is to eat it outside of the prescribed time, or to eat it outside of the prescribed place. So what does that do? That makes it pigul. Pigul renders the carbon fundamentally unfit from the beginning. You meaning, what can you do with the pigul carbon? What can you do with the pigul carbon? Nothing, right? You destroy it, right? There's no bury it. There's nothing to do with it. There's nothing to do with it. You can't offer the limbs on the mizbeach. The meat does not become permitted for the kohanim. So the Gemara asks, in that case, why would the carbon be subject to Meilah? Right? I will say again, it's the model, the framework we're developing is, even if you do something sacrificially wrong, the carbon could be subject to Meilah as long as what? As long as your actions are kind of within the rubric, within the framework of sacrificial law. If you do something totally michutz lamachana, it's not even a carbon anymore. You do this over here, it becomes pigul. Once it becomes pigul, then why would it be subject to Meilah? So the Gemara gives a fascinating answer. Chutz lizmano chutz limkomo l'may chazu. Hoil umiratzin lipigulin. So we'll say this is wild. So hoil umiratzin lipigulin means what? So we'll say look at Rashi. Rashi, it's the last two words in the daf, and it goes on to Amud Beis. Hoil umiratzin lipigulin. Kilomar. Turn the page. Kilomar. Hoil vayshchitas pigul chashiva kulihai. Dila olam lo mikvah pigul lechayvu karis achi yikrevu. So we'll say. So again, we're going to get into this more later on, but essentially the Gemara says that since this act works to confer upon it a pigul status, and pigul status is in and of itself a part of sacrificial law, therefore what? It is subject to Meilah. So we'll say, so this is actually such an incredible answer. So the Gemara's kasha was, why should this animal be subject to Meilah? Why should this animal be subject to Meilah? After all, it's become pigul, right? Nothing's fit, nothing's appropriate, nothing can be offered, nothing can be consumed. To which the Gemara says, because the status of pigul is what? Is a sacrificial status as well. And once something is a sacrificial status, therefore halacha l'maisa, it is subject to Meilah. Look at Rashi one more time. So we'll say, so ultimately again, shechting something, even though it is in a state of pigul, is so significant. V'amrinan kartzas kasher dichsiv beyiratza lechaper kach kartzas pasol de pigul mahartzas kasher lo hortzat shikrivu kamatirav l'shmo kach kartzas psul lo nikva psul pigul lechayv karis ad shiyakrivu kamatirav l'shem pigul v'hainu meratzin shemeratz l'tzorach hazrika lemikvei bepigul v'cheivan da zrika chashuva kol kach. So we'll say, so ultimately, what Rashi's pointing out over here is something only becomes pigul when, not just when the shechita for pigul, but also when the zrika is done for the sake of pigul. So we'll say, so essentially this is incredible. As much as pigul renders you unfit, that unfit status still falls within the carbonic and sacrificial rubric, and so because of that, it will be subject to Meilah. Quite incredible. We're gonna expound on that more. The Gemara is not finished with that concept. Ibailu. So we'll say, going weiter. Ibailu. Incredible Gemara now. Ibailu. Mao sheyerdu. We'll say, watch this. So look at Rashi. Rashi says, "Ibailahu had ditani b'masnisin deshina b'hen kigon sheshacha b'dar mishkil b'dar." So I'll say, so now the Gemara is asking a generic question on all of the cases in the Mishnah. So we'll say the common denominator in the case of the Mishnah is, what did you do? You were mishana. You deviated. Carbon is supposed to be offered a particular way, right? You deviated, you changed something. Whether you changed geographic location, you changed time of day, whatever it is, you did something different. So we'll say, I did one of these different things. So we'll say, so again, let's take up a step back for just a moment. Easy case. I take Kachei Kadashim, where Kachei Kadashim is supposed to be shechted? In the north. In the north. Instead, what did I do? I shechted it in the south. So we'll say, so now what do I do with that carbon? What do I do with that carbon? Let me say it differently. What don't I do with that carbon? Bring it on the Mizbeach. Now, what I do with it, we'll discuss. But one thing that's clear is, once you mess up some element of the sacrificial order, you obviously don't offer it up as a carbon. You don't offer it up as... So again, remember, that's not our topic in the Mishnah. Our topic in the Mishnah is it or when is it subject to Meilah? But one thing is clear, which is at the end of the day, it is not offered up on the Mizbeach. What happens if you put it up? What happens, I will say, if you shechted it in the south, you did Kabbalah and Zrika in the north, and then what happens, you did Kabbalah in the north, do Zrika, and then you put the limbs on the Mizbeach. You did it. You put it on the Mizbeach, right? You did it. So what's the Shaila? Do you have to take it off or not? The Shaila is, once you put it on, do you have to take it off? So the Gemara says, if it went on, if you put it on, do you have to take it off or not? Look at Rashi. So we'll say, I wasn't supposed to put these limbs on the Mizbeach, but if I did, do I have to take it down? Machlokes. Rabba Amar im alu yerdu. So Rabba says, if they went up, you have to take them down. Rav Yosef Amar im alu lo yerdu. Rav Yosef says, no, if you put them on, in other words, you shouldn't put them on, but if you did, what's the halacha? You don't have to take them down. To which the Gemara says, we'll say, according to Rabbi Yehuda, we'll see which Rabbi Yehuda we're describing here in just a moment. According to Rabbi Yehuda, there's no shilas, right? We don't have to worry. We'll say Rabbi Yehuda l'shitas. We'll see Rabbi Yehuda shita in just a moment. Is anytime you put on the mizbeach something that is sacrificially invalid, you take it down. you take it off. So everyone agrees, according to Rabbi Yehuda, that even if you put it on, you take it off. Look at Rashi for just a moment. I'll leave it to Rabbi Yehuda. Rashi says, "Da'amar Hasan Perak HaMizbeach Mekadesh Zosia Ola Hare Elu Gimel Miutin Parat L'Shenishbach Dama L'Shelana Sheyatza Shim Alu Yirtu." So also, without getting into the substance over here, Rabbi Yehuda's shita is that any time you have a problem in the carbon, whether it's that the blood spilled and you never got to do zrika, or some other disqualification, if you put the limbs on the mizbeach, then what? You must take them down. So Rabbi Yehuda's shita is clear. Ki pligi, where does the machlokes come up? Aliba de Rabbi Shimon. So I'll say the machlokes comes up on Rabbi Shimon because Rabbi Shimon ultimately disagrees with Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Shimon says that as much as a carbon may be disqualified and should not be offered, if you put it on the mizbeach, you leave it there. Let it stay there. Right? Let it stay there. So the Gemara says, Rav Yosef, Kreb Shimon. So Rav Yosef who holds that if it goes on the Mizbeach, right? If it goes on the Mizbeach, leave it. He holds like Reb Shimon. However, Rabba will say to you, so also remember, Rabba is the opinion who says that if you put the unkosher, right, the non-kosher carbon on the Mizbeach, you have to take the limbs off. So Rabba will say no. Amar lecha ad kan lo kam Reb Shimon, ella binitanin lamata shenaslan lamala. So Rabbi says, no. When does Rav Yosef say that if you took a carbon that should not be offered on the Mizbeach and you put it on the Mizbeach, that's what? That you can leave it there? That's in a very specific case where what did you do? You sprinkled the blood in the wrong location. Also remember again, the Mizbeach has the Chut HaSikra, has a red line. There are some carbonos which require blood applications above the line, some which require blood applications below the line. Rav Yosef says if you messed up on the placement of your blood applications, you shouldn't offer the carbon. But if you did, what's the halacha? Leave it. That's when Rav Yosef said that if you went ahead and you took and called it inappropriate carbon and you put it on Mizbeach, that you leave it. However, the olam de shachtan v'kibel daman b'tzafon. So I will say that's talking about a case where what? Where the shchita and Kabbalah were all done correctly. You messed up on a very nuanced detail about blood placement, right? You even got the zrika right, in other words, the zrika is being done on the mizbeach. You got the blood placement wrong, above the line, below the line. That's what Rav Yosef says. If you put the limbs on the mizbeach, then what? You can leave them there. However, aval hacha. But in our case of the Mishnah, kevan de shachtan bedarim. I will say, but maybe Rav Yosef would hold that when you shechted the animal in the wrong place, you shechted it in the south instead of the north. What's the halacha? Kiman dechan kinan dami. Ultimately, again, it should be like what? It should be like the animal died or was strangled. And therefore, even Rav Yosef would agree in this case, that's what? That if you placed the limbs on the mizbeach, what's the halacha? Take it down. So I will say, so therefore, Rabba jumps in and wants to say that you don't try to align Rav Yosef. Don't try to align Rav Yosef with Reb Shimon, because it could be Reb Shimon would not agree in this particular case. So again, therefore, we still stand with the machlokes between Rabba and Rav Yosef. Namely, in any of the cases of the Mishnah, where let's say you did something carbonically inappropriate, and therefore again, if you were to ask the Shaila, what should I do with my carbon? The resounding answer would be what? Nothing. We'll see what to do with it. But one thing is clear, which is you're not offering it up on the mizbeach. What happens if you did put it on the mizbeach? So Rabbi says, take it down. Rav Yosef says, leave it alone. We wanted to think that maybe Rav Yosef aligns himself with Rav Shimon, to which no, Rav Shimon is dealing with a very nuanced case of where you messed up in a detail of the blood placement. That's what Rav Shimon says. In that case, if you put the limbs on the mizbeach, you could leave it there. But it could very well be in this case where you shechted it in the south. Once you shechted it in the south, we're done. We're done over here. And even Rav Shimon would agree that if you put those limbs on the mizbeach, take them down. Next, Tanan. Kodshe Kadosh. So also the Gemara goes right. We're not finished. This machlokes goes on. Kodshe Kadosh and sheshachtan madara molin bohen. So what did the Mishnah say? That Allah Lamaisa, if you shecht Kodshe Kadoshim in the south, if you shecht it in the south, it is subject to Meilah. Bishlam al Rav Yosef necha. So according to Rav Yosef, this makes sense. Right? Rav Yosef, this makes sense. Why? Because I will say, when you say that it's subject to Meilah, it ultimately means that what? That Allah Lamaisa is still a sacrificial sanctity. Look at Rashi. Bishlam Rav Yosef, second wide line in Rashi. Bishlam Rav Yosef, the Amar im alu lo yerdu, hoil v'lo yardu mikdushasan mishum hachi molim. So let's listen to this. So the Mishnah says that what? If I go ahead and I shecht in the south, Kachik Kadashim in the south, which of course is wrong. So we'll say, nevertheless, what does the Mishnah say? The carbon is still subject to Meilah. Still being subject to Meilah means what? That it retains sacrificial sanctity, even though it was shechted in the wrong place. So this seems to support the position of Rav Yosef, who holds that if you took these limbs and you put it on the Mizbeach, right, you don't take them down. Right? Why? Because they still retain some level of their sanctity. El Rabba Kasha. But according to Rabba, who says that if you put the limbs on the Mizbeach, you have to take them down, why, Rabbi, say, would the carbon shechted in the south be subject to Meilah? We'll say, you hear the Shaila? If you're telling me, so let's just analyze this, okay? Simple case. I shechted in the south, illegal. Should have been shechted where? In the north. So now watch this. So let's fast forward a little bit. I now put the limbs of this carbon on the Mizbeach. What do I do? I made a mistake. Or I didn't intentionally, I didn't know the halacha. So what do I do? Rabbi says, take them down. Rabbi Yosef says, leave them on. Now we'll say, okay, so that's the machlokes. Now what are they really arguing about? It would appear that Rabbi Yosef holds the animal still has some level of kedusha. Therefore, again, although you shouldn't have put the limbs there, if you did, leave them alone. Rabbi seems to say what? This is not a carbon. So because it's not a carbon, therefore what? Get those limbs off the Mizbeach. Right? So we'll say, now here's the problem. How did the Mishnah paskin in this case of where you shechted in the south, even though you should have shechted in the north? What did the Mishnah say? Subject to Meilah. Subject to Meilah means what? It has carbonic identity. Then if you put the limbs on the Mizbeach, what should be the halacha? You should be able to leave it. Good. Which is a support ultimately again for Rav Yosef and a kasha on Rabbah. To which the Gemara says, Rabbah says, no, it's not a kasha. I'll tell you what I will say, and here's where it gets crazy. My Morlin Bahen, because now the Gemara kind of derails what we thought the Mishnah was saying. My Morlin, what does it mean when we say that it's subject to Meilah? Midirabbanan. Wow. The Mishnah, when it says that it's subject to Meilah, does not mean Meilah d'oraisa, but instead means Meilah d'Rabbanan. Look at Rashi. My Moalin midirabbanan, aval mid'oraisa les behu kedusha. Rabbi said this is Rabba's interpretation. Rabba will say when the Mishnah says that these cases, all of these cases, that they're subject to Meilah. No, not Meilah d'oraisa, Meilah d'Rabbanan. And therefore Rabba says, the Mishnah doesn't say it, but I'll tell you that if you accidentally put those limbs on the Mizbeach, then what? Take them down. What's it? Which says subject to Meilah midirabbanan. Incredible. Ma'ika bein d'oraisa d'Rabbanan. So we'll say, so by the way, welcome to Meilah d'Rabbanan. Whoever heard of that before, right? But now the Gemara says, okay, tell me a little bit about Meilah d'Rabbanan. Right? What is Meilah d'Rabbanan? So ma'ika bein d'oraisa d'Rabbanan. I'll tell you, mid'oraisa mishal min chomesh d'Rabbanan lo. Simple distinction I will say is that in biblical Meilah, you're paying keren, right? You're going to pay the principal plus the penalty fifth. Apparently in Meilah d'Rabbanan, you have to pay back principal, but you are not obligated to pay back the fifth. That's the fundamental distinction. Look at Rashi for just a moment. Meilah d'Rabbanan, Rashi says, Mishalim keren velo chomesh, mishum de chomesh mipnei ayel asha ma'silei. So we'll say is we're going to see that 1/5 penalty payment is actually really connected to the carbon, to the el asham. And since, of course, by Meilah d'Rabbanan, you're not bringing a carbon. Once you're not bringing the carbon, you're also not bringing the penalty fifth. Ub'd'Rabbanan leka carbon, dahavi kemevi chulin la'azara, hilchach lo ma'isi nami chomesh, aval Meilah d'oraisa ma'isrosa. Obviously, for rabbinic Meilah, you're not going to bring a carbon, because you can't bring a carbon for a rabbinic infraction, right? Because that'd be like chulin la'azara. So therefore, the distinction between Meilah d'Rabbanan and Meilah d'oraisa is the fifth. Now, it's really the fifth and the carbon, but we don't even get into the carbon, because it's obviously you're not bringing a carbon for rabbinic Meilah. But d'oraisa, you have to pay principal plus a fifth, parentheses, and the carbon. Ultimately, again, Rabbanan, only principle, not the fifth. So he says, what? This is like incredible. Whoever heard of such a thing like this? Mamish Chanukah came early. Umika Meilah d'Rabbanan. We'll say, is there such a thing like Meilah d'Rabbanan? Is there such a thing like this? Whoever heard of such a thing like this? In Dharma Ula Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Kadshim Shemesu, Yatsu Midei Meilah Divar Torah. Yes, because listen to the following statement. Bless you. If you have Kadshim, a carbon that died, ultimately, again, it is no longer subject to Meilah. Right? So we'll say now, if you look at the Lashon over here, the Lashon is what Rabbi Yochanan says, Kadshim Shemesu, Yatsu Midei Meilah what? Divar Torah. Dvar Torah means what? Midaraisa. Alma midaraisa lo islahon bidrabanan isbahon. So say from the wording over here, you see that since it says it's not subject to Meilah Dvar Torah means it's not subject to Meilah Midaraisa, which sounds like there is Meilah Dirabanan. Hachanami Midrabanan. So ultimately, you're going to say, therefore, again, it would appear that here also there is a din Meilah Midrabanan, not Midaraisa. So Leima Tanina Lahadu'ula. So we'll say that ultimately, again, we have a support to that which Ula said. Leima Tanina Lahadu Ula Amar Rabbi Yochanan Afagav de Tanina. So we'll say. So now what the Gemara asks is as follows. We'll say we're going to stop over here for today. We're going to pick up with Leima Tanina Lahadu Ula. We'll say I just want to make a suggestion because again tomorrow is a shorter daf, so we'll be fine even starting over here. As you can see, this Gemara, as much as it's Kachim, has beautiful Shak Levataria. Sometimes one of the hardest things about Daf Yomi is the pace that we have to go in. We have to move at a fast pace, and it's an incredible amount of information to retain. So I was saying, Chazara is an incredibly powerful thing. If you spend a couple of minutes, you don't need more than 15, 20 minutes to Chazer this particular daf, just to go through. It's not, as you saw, it's not complicated. Baruch Hashem, when I deal with deep esoteric concepts, 15, 20 minutes in the evening to go, even 15 minutes, 10 minutes, to just chazer over the concept so you have the Shak Levatalia clear. I will say it allows for retention and ultimately again allows us to build on the next stuff also. So again, we're always looking to grow. Remember, when you start a new Masechta, it's not just I'm starting a new Gemara. I now have to, there's something new I'm taking on as well. Even if I haven't been so good in my Chazara in Daf Yomi now, we'll say even if you don't chazer the whole blot, but even if you just chazer one amud, just to be able to retain a bit more, it'll enhance your appreciation of the Masechta. Alright, we'll stop here. We'll pick up Leima Tanina and Mir Tashem tomorrow.